Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. I'm here with Camilla Greenwood from Greenwoods Solicitors. How are you doing, Camilla?
Hi, I'm well, thanks, Mike. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Thanks very much for joining us. So if you could start us off, as always, by giving us a little bit of background, further information really about who you are, what it is you do, and how long you've been doing it for, please.
So my name is Camilla Greenwood. I am a solicitor and a director of Greenwoods Solicitors in Knaresborough. I joined Greenwoods Solicitors unexpectedly in April 2022, and it is a firm of solicitors which was set up by my mum when I was 6 months old. I'm telling my age here, but in 1991, mum set up Greenwoods Solicitors. Independently from my mum's firm, I qualified as a solicitor and was practicing at a national firm in Leeds. And my mum had set up Greenwood Solicitors so that she could manage being a single mum with being a professional as well. So one of Greenwood's big ethoses remains today that we support women in pursuing a career in the legal industry while still being able to pick up the kids from school and be mums as well as lawyers.
Fantastic. So what sort of size team have you got there then?
We are 7 people made up of 6 women and 1 man at the moment.
Excellent. So you obviously family background of legal and solicitors. What makes you guys stand out from obviously the many operators that there are in the legal sector? Is it that piece around being flexible in the workforce with regards to time and working week?
Yeah, I think so. I think given the reason that the firm was set up in the first place, 33 years ago, it was so that mum could manage having a business and manage being a mum as well. And that's carried on throughout the years. I mean, at the moment, we've got 4 members of staff with young children, and we allow everybody to work flexibly to collect their children from school. We have the kids coming in on the school holidays and drawing on our will paper and stealing our pens. But that creates a really nice ethos in the office because we all are singing from the same hymn sheet, really. That family ethos extends to our clients. I think it makes us more sensitive. It makes us more understanding. But I find that people who haven't instructed lawyers before are quite intimidated by the idea of going to see a solicitor. And by being a family-friendly firm, I think it takes the edge off for people, knowing that we also have families, that the things that they're coming to us with, which are at the time the most important thing in their life, they're being dealt with by a human. You can come in and see us and have a meeting with us and sit down and have a cup of tea if you want to. And it isn't an arm's length transaction. You know, we are here. So I think extending our family ethos, not just to our staff, but to the community, is what I like to think sets us apart.
Brilliant. That's a great share. Kind of embracing the human side of what you do. And yeah, I was going to ask you about how does that transfer from the workforce into the clients, the customers, but you just explained that there. So in terms of your journey and what that's been like to date so far, if there's one word that you could use, what would that be? And then potentially expanding on that.
One word. I wasn't ready for that question.
Some people use roller coaster or exciting or interesting or an experience, you know.
Unexpected, I think. So, I mean, Mike, you're aware of the circumstances, but for the benefit of those people listening, my mum, whose firm Greenwoods was, died unexpectedly in 2022. And somebody needed to take over the management of the firm instantly. we were running as a normal business, managed by my mum, and one day she was here and the next day she wasn't. And ongoing client work, somebody needed to take up the mantle. And so in that instant, my life changed. And fortunately, I am a solicitor and I could take over. We're a regulated industry, which makes it slightly different to if my mum had a retail business, for example. Any person could take over, but with a law firm, to be able to manage and own the law firm, you've got to be qualified yourself. Unfortunately, I was. But it wasn't without endless amounts of red tape. And I think that was a really difficult time for me personally and professionally, because I had just lost my mum unexpectedly, but the demands of the business were so that I just had to put my personal life in a box almost to be able to put the people who, our clients, our staff first, so that nobody felt the negative, unnecessary, felt the loss of my mum. Everything else needed to carry on. So that was really challenging. And I think one of the biggest things that I have learned is to prepare for the worst. Sure. You don't expect the worst to happen, but it can. And I don't think my mum, as wonderful as a mum she was, and an amazing lawyer and a wonderful businesswoman, hadn't ever planned for the worst. So that made my life somewhat more difficult. And that would be my biggest take home or piece of advice that I could give, is plan for the worst in the hope that you never have to use that plan, but if you do, it's there for you.
Sure. It's a really important message, that, because I don't know if there's any figures or statistics on business owners having that kind of succession plan in place subject to the unexpected happening, but it's a really important message to get out there, because obviously the impact on yourself must have been huge in that separation that you had to make between personal grief and running a business and having that continue in the capacity that needed to in order to function for staff and clients. What a big impact that must have had on your life, really.
Yeah, I think I will always be in shock, but it has made me more cautious. And I think the things that would have made life easier for me would have been a plan, perhaps some business insurance to assist with getting the advice around our regulatory obligations when someone in the firm dies or is taken unwell. Even if somebody had been taken unwell for a prolonged period of time, that information I think we should receive before the worst happens, rather than trying to digest that information whilst we're also in the thick of managing a crisis. So forewarned is forearmed, really, isn't it? Sure. And I was told, it was only 4 days after my mum died, and I'd taken some legal advice from a solicitor in London on the compliance aspect of things. And he told me that I had to close or dispose of the firm. Well, I didn't take the advice, obviously, because we're still here, but that was the advice I got. And I thought, I can't let my mum's lifetime's work just disappear into the ether. So I found another way. So I think that's another thing, another piece of advice that I would give is, when you don't know the answer, get advice, pay for it. Don't shy away from paying for professional advice. And even if you don't take the advice, you know the implications of not following that advice. You can't possibly know it all. And you're an expert in your field, and that's why you've started a business in your field. But for anything that you don't know, get advice. Get advice and then make a judgment call on how appropriate that advice is for your business.
And getting it before anything happens. Yeah.
Before anything happens. Yeah.
And saying, you know, to business owners, have you thought about what happens if ... numerous things? It doesn't have to be necessarily you know, a death. It could be an accident or something like that, but you still can't necessarily function in the way that you did before. But yeah, it's a really important.
Or an international virus that grounds us all. But all of the, you know, all of these things you don't consider, and then they happen, and then it's a knee-jerk reaction. So I think what we learned through COVID, what I learned through losing my mum, these things happen, and as wild as they may seem, I mean, none of us imagined that entire world would be grounded for 2 years. Yeah. But we managed. I mean, we're doing this by Zoom now, and I think, you know, that was a blessing of COVID, that we can facilitate these meetings. But forewarned is forearmed.
Sure. And if you, in terms of taking a positive out of it from your business from this point forward, is it something that you can use to help when people come in to see you, your experience, to explain the importance of you know, being prepared, getting advice, as well as your own business being in a better position than it was before, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my area of expertise is dealing with wills, estates, and elderly and vulnerable care. And so we have very vulnerable, either newly bereft or family members, or people who are getting their ducks in a row and doing their wills. And this is certainly something that I can use to advise my clients now, and say, have you considered X, Y, and Z, but also the unexpected? So I think that my experience has made me a better lawyer, actually. If we can find any silver lining, I think it's made me have more of a depth in my area of expertise.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It's really appreciated, that sort of openness, and so it's an important message. So what does the future look like for you, Camilla? And what are the challenges or opportunities that you can foresee?
That we can foresee. Well, we don't have a crystal ball. We are recruiting. So like I said, we're a team of 7. After my mum died and I took over the business, there were rumours in our town that we were closing. So I went on a big marketing drive because I needed to let everyone know that we weren't going anywhere. We've been here 30 years and we're going to carry on being there for our community and further afield. So I went on a marketing drive, which resulted in us being extremely busy, which is great. So we are recruiting. We have just moved offices. We actually are now in a position where, rather than renting, we've bought our own premises, which is exciting. And I've just returned from maternity leave, so I'm adjusting to being back at work after having a baby. So I think we're just going to let the boat sit where it is, get used to our new premises, finish our recruitment drives, and stock check and see where we are before we make any more radical changes like moving offices or anything like that. But hopefully keeping doing what we're doing, doing what we're good at. That's another piece of advice that I would give, is do what you're excellent at. Don't do something that you're not sure about. You can do what you're excellent at standing on your head. It's a much better use of your time doing what you're really good at than trying to do too many things and letting something that you're only mediocre at drain your time. Use your time to be excellent, because you know how to do it.
And so is that a piece of advice if someone was just starting out in business and they came to you and said, Camilla, can you offer me a piece of advice for my business that I'm setting up? Would that be it?
Yeah, I'd say don't try and spin too many plates. Do what you're excellent at. Be an expert in your field. It's a much better use of your time.
Awesome. And in terms of inspiration for you, Camilla, I can take a guess perhaps from the conversation that we've had, but what inspires you to kind of get up out of bed of a morning and go to work? What is it for you?
I think there are a few factors to this, actually, Mike. Ultimately, I'd taken over my mum's business, and making her proud is a big driving force. That for a long time was the reason I got out of bed. I then became a mum myself, and that gives me another level of inspiration to set a good example for my daughter. But really, I think I was thinking about this yesterday. If I could have a conversation with 10-year-old me, would that 10-year-old look up to the person that they're speaking to? So would 10-year-old me be proud of 34-year-old me? And I think a lot of emphasis that children is put on, what do you want to be when you grow up? And if you can make yourself proud, that is probably the best pat on the back that you can have.
Great answer. That's a lovely answer. I've not had that one before, but I'll be remembering that one. So then lastly, in terms of any, I mean, you've mentioned a little bit about what you're up to, but if there's any latest news, or even if it's just a case of sharing your website, so if people want to get in touch with you and know more about what you do, or want to reach out to inquire about your services, feel free to let us know that now.
Thank you. Yeah, just as our areas of expertise are wills, lasting powers of attorney, and we have a very highly regarded conveyancing team, so for the purchase and sale of residential property. And I will share my email address and website with you, Mike.
Okay, awesome. We'll put that on the description. Thanks, Camilla. It's been a real pleasure talking with you, and thank you for sharing all that you have. I wish you all the best for the future success of the business.
Thank you for having me.